On this edition of High Bank Fury, the podcast, I'm Roy J. Akers of High Bank Fury and also Skyview Sports. And with me, I have Scott Graves. And Scott, to the last season, the number 17 almost got in the playoffs, but it seems like you were in a persistent bubble for most of the summer. Did the new news coming out with the new chase format, which is the old chase format, did that come out in your favor, you think?
I think, if you look at our performance historically over the last few years, I mean, we've always been consistent every week. We were 16, 17, top 10 kind of car last year. A lot of top fives as well. So I think, it probably favors us a little bit or helps us, that consistency. I think, if you just look at straight up points, we've always been in that 10th place range. It's just, I guess we look at it as it's a change in the rules. Obviously, we had the rules the way they were the last few years, and everyone knew what that was. And now it's a new game to play. So it's just a different set of rules, and we just got to prepare for that and look forward and do the best we can to get ourselves in the position to make sure we're in the playoffs. And we still want to win races. That's really what we're here for. And it's the thing that whatever format we're looking at, that's the thing we really got to work on.
Now, when I talked to Chris at various races last year in the press room, and that he's a very even-keeled guy, and I think something that he doesn't get credit for is what an excellent race car driver he is on virtually every kind of track, including short track racing, even at a track like Bowman Gray. He's excellent at super speedway racing. You're not going to disagree with me on that. You have yourself one of the best drivers in the entire Cup circuit.
I agree. If you look from 2022, through current, we've got 5 wins, and they've been all different kinds of courses, from road courses, speedways, short tracks. He's shown that he can win on any type of track.
Yeah. Now, for our audience, Scott Graves is the crew chief for Chris Buescher, the driver of the number 17 for RFK Racing. In his career, he's won at every level that he's been at, including he's won 7 times at the Cup over the last 4 years. I'm sure he's going to get back, off the goose egg that happened last year. But I think with Chris, when you guys found out, I know when you're racing, it's as the cookie crumbles. You dealt with whatever the rules are. Okay, you get that, but you and your team must have been extremely excited to know that, hey, you know what? Things are fair. Things are more kind of like how we race, we're confident we can get a team in the top 16. And I imagine that you guys had some conversations about that, and you guys got you excited.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, straight up, it rewards the consistency. I think where they were, it was obviously rewarding the win. And now it's probably a little more balanced. I obviously applaud NASCAR for looking at it and working on some of the changes to kind of bring it back to center on consistency and wins. It's all important. And I think it's a good balance where they're at now, and definitely something we're looking forward to. But like I say, in the end, I know we realize that if we want to win a championship or get to that level, we still have to up our game. It's one thing to make the playoffs, but we don't want to just be a 16th place car or just squeak our way in and say we're in that part of the playoffs. Really, we want to shoot for something higher than that, and we know that to get to that level, to compete with the best cars and teams and compete for a championship, we're going to have to get in there and win races and show sport or show speed at more tracks on a regular basis.
Right. When we come back on the flip side of this, we're going to talk to Scott just a little bit more about his team. We're going to talk a little bit more about RFK and Ford Racing and all that, and we're going to do that for you next.
The Great American Race returns.
This is Roy J. Akers for the High Bank Fury podcast. We are found multiple times weekly where we talk to NASCAR drivers, cover stories, and those that shape the sport. This is not just another podcast. We get exclusive content, talk fantasy NASCAR racing, and spill the news before other media outlets drop their take. We are on all podcast channels, the YouTube channel, and can be found on skyviewsports.net. Check out High Bank Fury, the podcast, today.
With us on High Bank Fury, we have Scott Graves. He's a crew chief for Chris Buescher, the driver of the number 17 and RFK Racing, Fast and all those. And we talked about Chris. He's one of the most all-around excellent drivers in NASCAR. I imagine when this team was assembled, I imagine that you were probably looked at as a good personality fit, a good crew chief fit, and some of the other guys that work with Chris have his confidence as well. I mean, what goes into that factor so that everybody on Saturday and Sunday performs to their maximum?
Yeah, I think it really is about the team and the people. Not just the driver. Obviously, that's a huge part of it. Chris is the quarterback, right? He's in the seat. He's the one that makes all the split-second decisions and the things that ultimately can bring you the glory or the defeat, right?
Right.
But the guys behind the scenes putting the cars together, making sure we don't have any mechanical failures. My engineers working on setups and development and trying to make things go faster week in and week out. It's all important, and we all have to be working in the same direction. Chris and I have a lot of history going back to Xfinity days, and so that was a good fit. And we're always working on the team side continuously, trying to make sure we got the best people, and we're putting our best ideas out there, and like I say, and all working in the same direction to make a better product.
Final 2 to 3 questions. I had Larry Mack in the hot seat yesterday. I wouldn't say it was hot with him because he can answer anything you kind of throw at him ninja-wise. And he said that when he was a crew chief in the 80s and the 90s, I'm totally accept what he was saying. He says, I had to come up with it on the fly. He says, when he got behind the Kerry Earnhardt car when he came out of retirement to do the one race, he said that everything was sketched out. I mean, literally on a piece of paper. They did all these thousands of simulations. We're going to change this tire on this lap. We're going to pit on this lap. We're going to do this, this, and this. And is that how it is at RFK Racing, or is there still a little bit of room for Mr. Graves to go ahead and turn the knobs and dials?
It's a good mix of both. Obviously, it's one of those things like when you're working with younger engineers and teams, you want to give them the experience to grow, the opportunity to grow. So you have to, you let them obviously do a lot of planning. And then there's times when I have to, from the experience side, recommend some different things and directions. But we do in general, like going into a week or a weekend, you try to plan quite a bit. The practice sessions are fairly short, so you have to have a decent plan of what changes you want to make so you can utilize that time effectively. In the races, you generally have a plan. If it were to go out ideally, like if it were to go green, generally how you would play it out. But obviously, a lot of times the cautions happen and the things happen that you can't predict, and in those cases, you still have to be able to make the decisions, of what to do in those cases. So there's a mix of both. I'd say there's just looking back on history, there is definitely a lot more of the simulation that goes into it. Just with limited practice and everything else, we really have to rely on that a lot. But in the moment, you still have to be able to make those quick decisions.
I'm going to turn things over to RFK in general. When I talked to Chris a couple times last year, I asked him how Jack was doing. I did a 4-part series on him and his family in Livonia. I am from the Detroit area, and I'm coming down to Daytona in a couple of weeks. And of course, we're all going to be there. Looking forward to the start of this great season. But I asked Chris, I said, how much is Jack involved and how much is Brad involved? And Brad told me a unique story, and I'll tell you about that after I hear your comments. But I imagine RFK is there is no I in team, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jack still, I mean, he still wants to be involved. His mind is sharp. We had our pre-event meeting for, Bowman Gray, the class year, earlier today, and Jack's in on the call. He listens and, he gives, what advice he has from his past experience. So he still tries to, he tries to be present and be with the team. And Brad is very much a present player in the operations and what we do. He's at the shop quite a bit. Working with not with it's an interesting role because he's the driver of the six, but he's also kind of leading some of the direction of the company. So he's here working with his team a lot, but he's also visible at a company level, with what we do, and his impact on the shop and how we operate is you can see it in just about everything we do.
He seems like a very level-headed guy, and something he shared with me when we were talking at the media days, we were winding down in one of the corners in one of the races, is that he said, I try to be a diplomat. And he said, one day Jack pulled me aside and he says, you can't be a diplomat as much as you think. He says, you got to pull rank on your troops sometimes and get them in order if you don't feel like if you feel like they're making a decision that's really not in the best interest of the organization. And I think Brad said, good to know. So that's just something right there. Now, to me, I know that we fully believe that all three drivers in the RFK stable are going to win. We've established Chris Buescher. I mean, just finishing second in Phoenix last year, Brad Keselowski right there. He was in the mix of several races. And I believe we've got some more wins in Brad coming down the pipe. And what would it mean to everybody at RFK to kind of get that final lap salute that Dale got all those years ago when he was at Daytona?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the 500 is one that Brad's been chasing, and I mean, he's so good at the speedway races, and I firmly believe he can get it done. With Chris, we won the summer Daytona race. Really good speedway racer. Ryan, all three of them, any of them can do it. We just gotta, the speedway races are their own unique deal, and it really, you got to work together well as a team. You got to have a lot of luck to clear all the wrecks and things that happen, and be there at the end. And you really got to have a teammate there at the end to work with. And that's that's just something that we got to get all those pieces together for this one particular race and make it happen.
All right. Got one final question. It's more of an observation type question, but with the NASCAR Hall of Fame, with the induction ceremonies about a week ago, as you know, Jack Roush is the only two-time winner of the Bill France Award. And I imagine that is so well-deserved by both him and Jack will tell you the whole organization. And that's something for a job well done for just an elite company such as RFK.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a lot of people, a lot of effort go into what we do, and obviously led by Jack when he started it all. So definitely a great honor for him and the company and all the people here that represent the sport and what we've done over the years.
All right. Final thing as we kind of sail down the ski hill right now. RFK Racing, whether it's any one of the three drivers, we know we're here to talk about Chris Buescher and your contribution and the entire team. For him to win a championship, is there one data point? Is there one observation, one mental piece of the game that you can see that if it happens, we like our chances?
I mean, it's just really the sport is when you look at the whole season and how difficult it is, just really for us, it's getting that. We've been so close to being to that next level of competitiveness of every week. We've had moments where we've been, able to show up and be a top 5 level car for a couple weeks in a row. And that's really, we've been flirting with that at times, and we just really got to get over that step and get to that level, I think, to be able to call ourselves championship contenders.
That's awesome. Everybody, Scott Graves, he is the crew chief for the number 17 for RFK Racing. Fastenal, Kroger. Heck, you make me want to do some 10 for 10 shopping right now as I can hardly wait for the season. Mike Massaro in the background, Dan Z from Ford Performance and all that. Scott, thank you so much for giving up 10 or 15 minutes of your time. I really look forward to following you guys as the course of the season goes on. And you probably won't remember me, but I may pat you on the shoulder at some point down there in the pits and say, remember me back in January at Bowman Gray when it was freezing and all that. All right. Thanks again, everybody. And you have yourselves a fantastic afternoon. And I can hardly wait to be down in Daytona in just 2 weeks.
All right. Ready to go.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
9 races in a row. Ford has won here at Michigan. And behind the wheel this time, Chris Buescher, and a very ecstatic crowd and crew celebrating this win. 4 career wins for Chris Buescher. Back to the white flag. It will be the next flag that ends the race, but they've got to go a complete lap. Green flag back in the air.